You think that journaling is about feelings and gratitude lists? That's exactly what billionaires want you to think. Look, I get it. When most people hear journaling, they picture someone writing, "Dear diary, today I felt grateful for my morning coffee." But here's the thing, while everyone's focused on emotional processing and mindfulness, the world's wealthiest people are using journals as strategic weapons. They're not exactly advertising this fact. Today I'm going to break down the journaling system that helped create more fortunes than any business school curriculum. Stick around because by the end of this you'll understand why 67% of Fortune 500 CEOs journal daily, and it's not because they're particularly in touch with their feelings. The misdirection. Here's what is fascinating about human psychology. We love to romanticize success. We want to believe that billionaires meditate under waterfalls and write poetry about their inner journeys. It makes wealth feel more spiritual, more deserved somehow. But research from Harvard Business School shows something completely different. When they studied the habits of 1,200 high net worth individuals, they found that 73% of them engage in what they call systematic reflection practices. That's academic speak for strategic journaling. The kicker? When this many individuals were interviewed about their success factors, journaling ranked dead last in what they mentioned publicly. Dead last. They talked about hard work, luck, timing, mentors, everything except for one practice that 73% of them actually do consistently. This isn't accidental. There is a massive competitive advantage in letting everyone else think success is about vision boards and positive affirmations while you're actually running a completely different playbook. Think about it logically. If you had a system that consistently improved your decision making by even 5%, would you want your competitors to know about it? Of course not. By the way, if you're serious about writing, please check the free ebook in the description of this video. It will help you write like never before. Now back to our business. What they really doing? So what are they actually writing in these journals? It's not "I'm grateful for my private jet." It's systematic decision analysis. McKinsey and Company released a study tracking decision maker patterns across 2,500 executives over 5 years. The top performers were talking about the people who consistently made the most profitable decisions had three things in common. They all documented their reasoning before making major choices. They tracked prediction accuracy over time, and they regularly reviewed past decisions to identify patterns. This is exactly what strategic journaling accomplishes. It's like having a personal data analyst for your own brain. Here's how it works in practice. Before making any decision, before making any significant decision, they write down three things: their prediction of what will happen, the reasoning behind that prediction, and their confidence level on a scale of 1 to 10. That's it. Takes maybe 2 minutes. But here's where it gets powerful. Studies from the University of Pennsylvania show that people who tracked their predictions this way improved their forecasting accuracy by an average of 23% within just 6 months. 23%. In business, that kind of improvement in decision making can literally be worth millions. The second component is what psychologists call cognitive load reduction. When you externalize your thinking process onto paper, it frees up mental bandwidth for a higher level analysis. Research from Stanford shows that simple act of writing down complex thoughts can improve problem-solving performance by up to 31%. And the third piece, this is the secret sauce, is pattern recognition through review. They don't just write and forget, they systematically review their entries, looking for recruiting themes in their mistakes and successes, the science behind it. Now let's talk about why this actually works from neuroscience perspective, because this isn't just some productive hack. There is a serious brain science here. When you write something down by hand, you activate what researchers call the generation effect. Your brain has to work harder to encode the information, which means you remember it better and can access it more quickly when making similar decision later. A study from the University of Tokyo found that people who wrote down information by hand showed 1.6 times more neural activity in areas associated with learning and memory compared to people who typed the same information. That's a 60% increase in brain engagement just from pick up a pen instead of opening a laptop. But it gets even more interesting. When you document your decision making process, you're essentially creating that what cognitive scientists call metacognitive awareness. You become aware of your own thinking patterns. Research from Cambridge University shows that people with higher metacognitive awareness make better decisions in uncertain situations by an average of 29%. Here's another wild finding. When you write about future scenarios, even hypothetical ones, your brain starts to treat them as more likely to occur. This is called the explanation effect. It's been documented in over 200 psychology studies. Essentially, by writing down your predictions and reasoning, you're programming your subconscious to notice relevant information and opportunities that support those predictions. The Whartons did a fascinating experiment where they had two groups of entrepreneurs. One group just thought through their business strategies mentally, the other group wrote them down in detail. After 6 months, the writing group was 42% more likely to achieve their stated goals. 42%. That's not marginal improvement, that's game changing. And there is part that really explains why billionaires keep this quiet. The advantage compounds over time. Each entry makes you slightly better at recognizing patterns. Each review session improves your mental models. After years of this practice, you're operating with decision-making framework that most people simply don't have access to. The data they actually track. So what specific data points are actually tracking? Because this isn't stream of consciousness writing, it's systematic data collection. First, they track what researchers call prediction calibration. Every time they make a prediction, they know their confidence level. Then they track whether they were right or wrong. Studies from the Good Judgment Project, which analyzed over 1 million predictions from 20,000 participants, show that people who track their calibration this way can become super forecasters, consistently outperforming experts and even intelligence analysts. The top 1% of forecasters in their study had one thing in common. They all kept detailed record of their predictions and reasoning. Not some of them, all of them. Second, they document what they call decision triggers, the specific information of circumstance that led them to make a choice. This is based on research from behavioral economics showing that most people are terrible at remembering what actually influenced their decision after the fact. A study from Carnegie Mellon found that people could only accurately recall their decision-making and reasoning 34% of the time, just 2 weeks after making a choice. But when they documented their reasoning in real time, the accuracy jumped to 89%. This matters because understanding your actual decision triggers, not what you think they were, is crucial for improving future decisions. Third, they track emotional state during decision making. Now, this isn't touchy-feely stuff, this is data. Research from the University of Iowa shows that decisions made in different emotional states have predictably different outcomes. People who are slightly positive about the euphoric make the most rational financial decisions. Third, they track emotional state during decision making. Now, this isn't touchy-feely stuff, this is data. Research from the University of Iowa shows that decisions made in different emotional states have predictably different outcomes. People who are slightly positive but not euphoric make the most rational financial decisions. People who are stressed make more conservative choices, often missing profitable opportunities. By tracking their emotional states alongside their decisions, they can identify when their emotions are helping versus hurting their judgment. A study of day traders found that those who documented their emotional state alongside their trades improved their return by an average of 18% over 6 months. Fourth, and it's crucial, they track the quality of their information sources. Before making decisions, they write down where their key information came from and how reliable they think those sources are. Intelligence analysts have used these techniques for decades, and it's incredibly effective at preventing costly mistakes based on bad information. Why they don't share this? Now, here's the $1 million question. If this is so effective, why don't successful people talk about it openly? The answer is pure game theory. In any competitive environment, information advantages are temporary. Once everyone knows about a strategy, it stops being an advantage. This is why algorithmic trading strategies have shorter and shorter lifespans. As soon as they become widely known, they stop working. But there is a deeper psychological reason too. Research from social psychology shows that people prefer to attribute their success to innate qualities rather than systematic practices. It's called attribution bias, and it's incredibly powerful. When successful people are interviewed, they instinctively talk about vision, intuition, and natural talent, not because they're lying, but because those explanations feel more satisfying to both them and their current audience. Nobody wants to hear that success comes from meticulously taking prediction accuracy in a notebook. There is also what economists call signaling theory at play. Talking about systematic, almost mechanical approaches to decision making doesn't signal the kind of inspiring leadership that people expect from successful figures. It's much better for your brand to talk about following your passion than following a spreadsheet. A study from Northwestern found that when leaders described their success in terms of systematic processes rather than vision and intuition, they were rated as 23% less inspiring by their teams. So there is actually a social cost to being transparent about these kinds of analytical approaches. Plus, there is the complexity factor. Strategic journaling looks simple from the outside, but it requires consistent discipline and systematic thinking. Most people won't stick with it long enough to see results. So why create more competition for yourself by promoting something that only a small percentage of people will actually implement effectively? The research backs this up. Studies show how that only about 12% of people who start systematic habit tracking practices continue them beyond 3 months. For the people who do stick with it, that low adoption rate is actually perfect. It means their advantage remains largely uncontested. The real implementation. All right, as how would you actually implement this if you wanted to test it out? Because the devil is definitely in the details here. First, forget everything you know about traditional journaling. This isn't about writing paragraphs or processing emotions. You're creating a decision database. Each entry should take no more than 3 to 5 minutes. The format is ridiculously simple. Date, decision or prediction, reasoning, confidence level 1 to 10, information sources, and emotional state. That's it. 6 data points per entry. Research from MIT shows that people who use structured formats like this are 67% more likely to maintain the habit long term compared to free-form journaling. Structure reduces the cognitive load of figuring out what to write about. For timing, the data suggests 2 optimal entry points: right before making significant decisions and during weekly review sessions. The pre-decision entries capture the reasoning in real time. The weekly reviews identify patterns and track accuracy. Studies from the University of Chicago found that people who review their prediction accuracy weekly improved their forecasting skills 2.3 times faster than people who review monthly or quarterly. Weekly seems to be the sweet spot of pattern recognition without information overload. Now, here's the part most people mess up. They try to journal about everything. Big mistake. Research shows that decision-making improvement comes from focusing on what psychologists call consequential choices, decisions that have significant impact on your goals. For most people, that's maybe 1 to 3 decisions per week worth documenting. Any more than that, and you're just creating busy work. Any less, and you don't have enough data to identify patterns. The key is consistency over volume. A study tracking habit information found that people who committed to smaller, more consistent practices were 3.2 times more likely to maintain them after 1 year compared to people who started with ambitious daily routines. Look, here's the bottom line. While everyone else is treating journaling like therapy, there is a small group of people using it as competitive intelligence. They're systematically improving their judgment, tracking their prediction accuracy, and building decision-making frameworks that compound over time. The research is clear. This approach works. Studies show consistent improvement in forecasting accuracy, better pattern recognition, and more rational decision making, but only if you actually implement it systematically. The choice is yours. You can keep thinking businesses about vision and inspiration, or you can start building the analytical frameworks that actually create sustainable competitive advantages. Just remember, now that you take this exits, you can't unknow it. The question is whether you actually use it or just file it away as an interesting information. Because here's what I can guarantee, your competitors probably aren't doing this yet, but some of them will be soon. The question is whether you want to be ahead of that curve or behind it. Well, thank you for watching. For more information, check out my channel and see you in the future videos. Cheers!